today we're going to be talking about wholesaling. We could probably talk about wholesaling in like 2 or 3 days, spread it out. So it's going to be a quick overview with some tips and to get you started.
And some do's and don'ts.
And this is brought on by the Virtual REI Academy. And real estate, when you get in there and talk to people and make connections, you might have the ability to talk to Stedman and have a great conversation with this intelligent, wonderful man. He was amazing to talk to and be able to rub shoulders with.
So just a brief overview of us and why we're talking. In 2016, we started real estate investing, and then within about 3 months, we closed our first wholesale deal, and that's where we started with wholesaling. So now it's still exit strategy for us, but we do other things, but we do still, and we wholesale for other people that can't necessarily move their properties. Sometimes we'll move them for them as well. And, again, a lot of it comes down to coaching, being in the right group, being with the right people. We just recently had the opportunity to meet Mike Slade. And if anybody knows him, he's with Microsoft. He used to hang out with Jobs and did some ESPN stuff. So he coaches now, and he's one of our coaches. We get to talk to him every couple weeks. So just always surround yourself with good people and always learn. That's the big thing, because everything's always changing.
And this was actually in 2016, after we learned some tactics for the first 3 months, we stumbled across this wholesale. This is in Baltimore, 21227. And this is an example of the HUD where we acquired the contract, the A to B, and the closing company, and then the B to C, the end investor bought it. And our first wholesale deal, we made a profit of $15,393.
And we talked about this one a little last week, and basically this was one that the buyer came back to us the night before and wanted a discount. And I mean, we almost just on principle walked away from it, just, a little bit
Stubborn.
pissy. I was a little bit pissed because he comes in the closing hour and wants, I don't know, a couple thousand off. And, at the end of the day, that was a coach that kind of was like, just, you're making a good profit. Just walk away. If anybody wants to look up that property, he sold that for a good amount. It looks great. This was a property we didn't even see. We were transitioning it to Florida. So we didn't even see this property when we put it under contract. Got it moving right away. And obviously we didn't see it till the week, I think, before we closed. We actually made a trip up to Maryland to visit family. So we actually saw it like right before it closed. But we'll talk a little bit about that, how you get boots on the ground and how you can have other people like scope things out for you.
Yeah, because as we were getting involved in real estate, we lived in Maryland, and then shortly after we moved to Florida, so we were kind of thrown into the virtual real estate investing, and then we saw how it worked and the ins and outs, and now we're in 11 different states.
And it's not like a tactic I would recommend for new people, but we were thrown into it, and you have to adapt. And that's pretty much with real estate altogether. You have to adapt to things. So some things don't turn out like you think they were, and you just kind of have to pivot, adapt, and figure out how to get out of whatever situation you're in.
And our area in Florida that we live in on the Gulf Coast, about an hour south of Tampa, that whole area has old money is in here. People are buying way too high. They've always been buying high since we got here. So especially the beginners, it was hard for us to find deals at the beginning. So that also kind of pushed us into investing in areas that we had an affinity for in different states and boots on the ground. So, it was a bunch of reasons why we started out virtually. And these are just examples of wholesales that we've done along the way. As you can see, some are in Maryland, some are in Florida, and the price point is what we got it for, and the PP, and then the profit is what we made out of it, the wholesale fee. And probably an average wholesale that you expect to make is anywhere from 5 to 7,000 would be the, your average wholesale fee. But as you can see there, you can get upwards of 13 to 15,000. And the one on Barnes Corner and Rising Sun, that was a guy who bought from us quite frequently. He was like what we call a pocket buyer, somebody that you could go to and you knew they were going to buy your property. So we gave him deals a lot on houses, and that was one that we gave him a good deal on. We made a little less than 3,000, so it was one of our lower ones.
3,000 is 3,000. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna walk away from that.
We always, it's like bits and pieces, hunks and chunks. So on your flips, you can get the chunks. On the wholesale, some of them you get a little bit, some of them you get a little bit more, and you just kind of keep all those flows going.
Yep, keep it moving.
And you can see they're in Maryland and Florida, and they were all, kind of spread out. So we'd have some in Maryland, some in Florida, some wherever.
And before we start talking about wholesaling, we want to give you a definition. A wholesaler obtains a contract from a homeowner selling their property, and you're not selling the property, you're selling the contract, the piece of paper, to an end investor. And we just want to reiterate that. A lot of wholesalers say, I have a property I'm selling, and it's legalities, but people are cracking down on wholesalers. Other, states and legislations are really cracking down on wholesalers. So you really have to be sure that you use the correct verbiage. And this is very important. You're essentially, you're selling the contract, a piece of paper. You're not selling the property. You never have ownership of the property. You're moving the house from the homeowner to the end buyer.
And just, it seems kind of minor, but one of the more advanced meetings we go to, it's a 1031 exchange group. Like there are a lot of older fellows in there, and they really get a little ticked off when you say I'm selling, if you just let it slip and say I'm selling a house, and then, they get into the semantics of, is it the house or is it the contract, or, what's your rate to it? So you really have to, because you don't want to come off as selling a house to somebody and then they're a little bit more experienced, and then they, it might have been a good deal, but they're going to walk away. Plus, you just want to make sure you know what you're talking about.
Right. It's, legalities, you know what you're talking about. You build the credibility. And there's some, of course, with all of real estate investing, there's some pluses and minuses. There's some positives and negatives. It's not easy to do any of the investing. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it. You always have to conquer things to get moving along. And we started out with wholesaling, and that was something that we're glad we did, because it throws you into real estate. You have to learn a lot fast. You have to acquire houses at a much lower price point than you would if you were buying it for yourself, because you have to have your fee in the middle of it. But when you start out, you don't have a lot of capital up front. So this affords you to sell and make profits with little out-of-pocket expenses. You get to evaluate a lot of houses and not own them, and walk through houses and see what's going on and learn the ins and outs, learn what it looks like with your rehab amount and figures, and what if foundation issues, you get learn the signature marks of what that looks like. Get to know what like there's been houses we've walked into that they've been a mess, and you realize they're not permitted properly. So the work done on them was, the electric panel was in the wrong spot.
Slim shady.
Yeah. And so you kind of get to see what's going on. And then you build up capital through wholesaling, and then you save that capital and hold it for other investments. Then you can buy houses, you can flip houses, you can obtain rentals. And it's a great exit strategy once you move forward. A lot of people use wholesaling to start out with and then go into more investing. And then it's good to learn that and be good at wholesaling. That way you always have that exit strategy. if you buy the wrong way or buy a little tight, you want to get out of it, you know how to wholesale. You have all the contracts and the paperwork.
And I want to hone in a little bit on the requires a little out of pocket. So a lot of people, when we see the ads all the time, they say wholesaling, you need zero money. I mean, that's absolutely not true. You do need some money. You need EMD money. If you buy from auctions or HUD Home Store or any of that, you need, EMD money for marketing. You can only drive for dollars so much. You can only do some of the other stuff. So it does require, or even just doing a website or printing business cards, any of that stuff that, so when people tell you you don't need any money, and we relied a lot, we did receive a pension when we retired. So, that saved us where, some people that, either they just, when they say quit your job and jump into it, like that just, because you do need some money and people do that and then they just, they get slapped in the face and then they got to go back to work and they never go back to it. So not a fan when I hear people say you don't need any money.
And Jane's right, marketing takes money, and to do the marketing the right way, you're going to spend a good chunk of your money on the marketing for wholesaling. We talked to a guy in one of our meetings the other day, and he said, how much did he
He
spend?
spends 10,000 a month on marketing. Now he's a flipper and he gets, a good amount of stuff, but even, some of the little marketing things that we do that we'll talk about in a few minutes, that costs money. It costs money for the postcards. It costs money. Even if you try to do a lot of stuff yourself, you're still gonna, need some money for a phone system or, unless you want to answer your cell phone all the time. So just it's not zero money. You do need to bring some money to the table.
And then with the pros comes the challenges, the cons. It's one of the hardest strategies. You're in a higher tax bracket. And when we started real estate and started investing, no one told us that. We had, because we were, W-2 jobs, worked for the, government. And once
they take the taxes out, you go to your accountant,
we're
all
like,
as
what the
well.
hell just happened? It was like you're in the highest tax bracket pretty much with wholesaling. The legalities, people are always saying that it's illegal. A lot of states are trying to do away with wholesaling. Realtors don't want the competition, so um, there you have to learn how to finagle your way through it and to get it to push through sometimes. And there's so many times that when we started out and we were wholesaling, we said we're investors, and they're like, no, you're not an investor, you're a wholesaler. You're, so they kind of, investors look down sometimes on wholesalers, and you don't always get the respect, or they don't think that you know what you're doing. And unfortunately, there's also a lot of wholesalers out there who
that don't know what they're doing.
Yes, and it makes it bad for everybody. So, and then there's title company challenges. You have to find the right title company who will close on these type of transactions, and you have to find the right title company, and you have to find their fees. And some of the ones that'll do it, their fees are very high, and that all um, goes into the bottom line. Sometimes if the fees are too high because you want to use your title company because it'll go through the right way, then the end buyer will say, well, then we'll split profits, or that sort of, split fees for the title company. So, or they just won't pay for the close, and you don't want to lose that deal. So sometimes that'll come out of your wholesale fee.
And this is a little advanced, I guess, but like title companies, we're pretty stuck on that. We have a good title company in Maryland. We have a good title company in Florida. We have a good one in Indiana. Some of them, are curveballs, which we don't, every once in a while we have them. But, those three title companies specifically, we stick to no matter what. And every time we went to another title company because the buyer kind of whined that he wanted his title company or hers, it's went south. We buy things, we put them in trusts, and so different things. You just want your title company, and that's something we really don't venture from anymore.
Yeah, you really want to make sure they are investor friendly, because you do a lot of things that is not conventional, and they have to understand it. Okay, so you want to wholesale, you want to get started. The first thing you want to do is get lead sources. You want to get leads to buy these houses. And one of the things you probably will do first is mail campaigns, direct mail. our first mentor that we had back in Maryland, he told us about the postcards and the direct mail, and we have colorful postcards, and we put them in little envelopes and put a celebrate stamp on it so it looks like an invitation. So more people open it than they open I'm sure everybody here has received mail from the wholesalers that looks like business envelopes, and some of them are
The yellow
printed out,
letters,
the yellow letters or printed out letters and neat. These you handwrite yourself, and you just look like anybody else. You don't look like a big company or a big corporation, and it's not as intimidating.
looks like a nice little invitation. This time of year we use pastel colors because they think they're getting an invite from the Easter Bunny, or some kind of engagement party or something that's going to make them open it. And we have been told, we actually had a guy in Randallstown that he had 13 commercial properties, a bunch of residential properties, and a whole bunch of other stuff that he was selling. He used to get tons of them every day, all day, and he opened ours and he called us because it was something different. It was handwritten. He thought we took time. Now, we didn't close the deal because we were so new. We had no idea what to do with that.
But now looking back,
we're kicking ourselves on that one. But
and bandit signs are pretty much signs you see up on the poles or
at the intersections,
pegged into the grounds and all, that says "We buy houses." And those you have to be careful with too, because some places you're not allowed to have them. So you could get in trouble for having the bandit signs if they can find you, or you can only have them up during the weekends and you have to take them down during the week. There's certain areas in certain towns. Examples of bandit signs, these are ones that we've used. And that's another thing. We always jump in there and do things, but then you have to tweak things. Sometimes you make minor mistakes. That's one good thing about having a coach or a mentor. You don't make big major mistakes, but you make some mistakes, hit bumps in the road on the way, and just pivot. The orange ones that are in front of that house, that was our mistake bandit signs. Before we should have showed it to our mentor before we got, what did we get, like 500?
Yeah, we got a lot because we had big plans. And if you notice on there, there's a phone number and the email. So what does that do? The code violation, they can call us right up and send us an email with, here's your pay your fine right here. We ended up putting this, we still have them, and we end up putting them at like houses we own. We flipped this house in Gwyn Oak and Woodlawn, so that was our house. We were allowed to put it there because it was ours. But if we would have put that out on the street at Liberty and Gwyn Oak, then the code people could have just been, okay, here's your ticket. You're not allowed to put that sign out. So that was our mistake. Don't do that.
Florida, they're not as strict as Maryland with the bandit signs, but you have to be careful. Now the yellow one with the black lettering, that is more conventional. You just put a phone number on there, and the number that you usually obtain is like an extra Google number or a
burner phone
or something. And that's also a good thing to have different phone numbers with different campaigns, so that you can track your different campaigns to see which one is working better than the others. It's so that's multifaceted why you want different phone numbers and different emails associated with different campaigns. Look on social media for people selling their houses, or for sale by owners, call them FSBOs. You go by and you either look online, or sometimes they have signs in front of their house that they're selling their house. And then realtors work with the ones that work with investors. They'll have houses that that are fixer uppers,
or even listed. It seems to be more in Florida, but we see a lot of realtors that and actually they will wholesale themselves, but they'll have deals that or you just call, you put offers in, and if you can get enough of a discount from the homeowner on an expired list, or somebody that just doesn't want the house for sale anymore and they just want out. If you get enough of a discount, then you can wholesale that. And we know somebody in Georgia that typically does that. She goes and looks at 10 to 15 houses once a week, and she gets a bunch that were on MLS. She gets them at enough of a discount negotiating, and then she wholesales them off. So
she has a pocket buyer. She goes right to this one person who'll buy as many as she can get for the parameters that he's looking for. So she's got a good system going for as long as he's going to buy houses there, and then he holds them. And then once I'm sorry, did somebody?
Oh, that was me clearing my throat. I'm sorry.
I thought it was a question. Then once you do the campaign, you get people calling you interested in selling their house. Then you have to do property evaluation. You want to look at the after repair value. And there's several different ways you can acquire the after repair value. You can have a realtor run comps for you. That's cumbersome, and the realtor get tired after a while when you start getting them rolling in. Or you can go to Zillow, Trulia, and kind of look at their comps. They're not perfect, but at least you have a base. And then you can go and look at the houses that have sold. Just look at the ones on the sites that have sold, not the ones that are for sale. And then within the last like 1 to 2 months, don't go back too far, because prime example now, when the housing market was hot, now the prices of the houses are coming back down. So it's going to say that the ARV is higher than what it actually is now, that you're basing comps off of even 5 months ago. We use 2 different systems. We have PropStream, and one of our mentors has investor comps, and we use investor comps as well.
So, and sometimes we put them all together because, and we hardly ever bug a realtor unless it's really something we're going to seriously put under contract and then flip, because they're just too busy to run the whole CMA for you. And PropStream does a pretty good job for us in investor comps. And then, you kind of mash them with Zillow, and you can kind of look at them and you're going to be spot on with what the realtor is going to come up. And then again, 3 months out is like our limit now, just because of the way the crazy market's been.
And then rehab costs, that's another thing. You want to make sure you update your rehab cost list. We use like rehab cost sheets. There's different people give out different sheets and analysis. But if it's old, make sure that you freshen it up, because the cost of materials are going high wire, especially the last couple of years. They go up and down. And
anybody bought a 2x4 lately?
And plywood.
What's that? It used to be like $10 and now it's 80.
Yeah, a piece of plywood, it went crazy like that too. And so always make sure you're on top of that. And then we, at the very beginning, we went to a lot of meetings. Like we went to the RIA meetings and different real estate meetings, and met up with and became friends and networked with contractors. And we asked them if we could come to their houses that they're working on and walk through, and they would point things out to us, show us things, give us costs, and we got a basis that way. And then different, like there's we learned that there was high-end rehabs for flipping and then lower-end rehabs for renting. So we tried to give as much information to the end buyer as we could, so that they knew exactly what they were buying and what they had to put into it. And that we learned so much that way. We walked through dozens of houses before we even started wholesaling, because we really wanted to do it the right way. There's so many wholesalers out there that, of course, you tell the end buyer that they have to do their own due diligence, but you want to make sure you present them a good product with all the information you can. I'm very transparent when we do that.
And I can barely swing a hammer, so that was a test for me.
And then you come up, when you do the ARV and the rehab costs, you come up with your maximum allowable offer, to the homeowner. And most investors are looking for 65 to 70 cents on the dollar, what they want to pay for the house. That's 65 to 70 cents of the after repair value. Then you got to subtract out the repairs, and that's what, you get the contractor to help you do the cost sheets, and you subtract out the repairs. Then you have to add on your wholesale fee, what you kind of want to make on that house, what you're expecting to make on that house when you sell the contract. And that's when you come up with your offer that you make to the homeowner. And you want to go through that?
Yeah, so, and this is just brief, and this will be mass simple. So just say you find a house and it's worth, you're pretty spot on with the ARV of 200, times that by 0.65. If it's a little better area, or in Florida they buy silly down here, so you could go up to 70. We've not swayed from those numbers. We didn't do a lot of acquisitions during this period because we didn't want to get caught, and we know several investors who got caught with up in the hype that I can pay whatever I want, whatever they want, I don't care, I'm going to sell it and make a ton of money. So we stick with the 65, so that gets you down to 130. You go in, you look around, your repairs are 30,000. So you subtract that, and then your wholesale fee, say you want to make 10,000. So you can put it out there for 90,000. If somebody comes to you and they want 85, then you got to weigh, do I want to, not make anything and be greedy, or do I just want to get it moving at 5 and then on to the next deal? We're pretty, if we get a good offer and we negotiate back, we usually put it, a little bit higher. So we might put that out for, 95, knowing they're going to come back at a different number. And then we'll just split it in the middle. That way they're still making money, we're making money, and we just keep it moving, because it's a numbers game, and the more offers you have, the more houses you get, the more money you're going to make, instead of being hung up on just fighting with this one house. And then you might not get anything if you can't move it in that 30, 60 days, whatever you have it under contract for. You'll end up not making anything, and then that's not good either. Plus the homeowner's not happy with you.
Yeah, you're tying up their house that they want to sell for however much time you agree upon, and then not getting it moving. And now that you have the house under contract with the homeowner, now the next step is to locate your buyers. You can go to Facebook Marketplace, look for people looking to buy houses. Like we do signage on the houses, we buy houses, those type of the bandit signs pretty much. And your network is your net worth. Build relationships with people, go to meetings, grow with them, and then you'll have those pocket buyers like I was telling you about in Maryland. That guy, anytime we had a house, we knew his parameters and the area he wanted to buy, we went to him. He knew that we did really good on getting the wholesale at the right price, and he would buy from us automatically.
And I'll give you just another example. This is more recent. So we were trying to sell a house for another investor, and somebody else kind of came in and blew the deal up with whatever nonsense they did. It was, they were going to sign, they took our assignment, they were going to assign it to somebody else, on and on. So the guy, at the end of the day, he didn't trust anything that was going on. We circled back with him, and now he's my first call. Anything in Florida. We've closed 4 recent deals with him. So, and Georgia, he's moved a couple. So now, I know what he's looking for. We're not really haggling over price. I don't have to start up. I just, it's reasonable, and he's my first call, and typically he's moving them.
And with systems like the PropStream and the Investor Comps, you can actually go in and look at the investors that are buying houses in different areas, and you can reach out to them. And realtors that work with investors, and establish your own buyers list. Go to meetings and virtuals, or meet up with people and develop your own buyers list.
And you'll see pretty quickly there's a lot of folks that I don't know, they just, they say they buy, but they never buy. So you'll get a handle pretty quickly who actually buys. Once they close one deal with you, that's always our first call, whatever area we're in.
And that brings us to the actual contracts and the title company. When you obtain the house from the owner, you use a purchase and sale contract with the homeowner. And then the contract that you use when you sell the contract, the actual purchase and sale contract to the investor is an assignment contract, because you're assigning the purchase and sale contract to the investor. And title companies, like I was saying before, you have to find the right title company who is comfortable with doing this. And then, you usually that's the one you'll use, and you're pretty loyal to them, and then they get to know you, and then they're comfortable with you. And when the contracts come through, they work really fast for you, and it works out good. And I know that there's been legalities with wholesaling, and I said that you might have to finagle your way around it to get the deal to go through correctly. One is, instead of wholesaling it, you actually have to do a double close, which means you close on the property from the homeowner, and then turn around and close it really quick with the end buyer. We have some contracts we use where you can simultaneously close and use the end buyer's money to close both transactions, to get them both closed. And if that doesn't work out well, or the title company's not comfortable with that, there is transactional funding out there. You can actually borrow money from a
private money lender.
Yeah, money lender who lends transactional money just for cases like this.
And it's usually pretty cheap. It will affect your bottom line, but it's not that much, because at the end of the day, you just want to close the deal. You don't want to lose a deal because the title company wouldn't close it, or, you just don't want to lose the deal.
Do you have to pay taxes on the first close?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's always partnerships and JV. You can partner with other people in JV, especially, when you're a beginner. It's good to do that, to have partnership with an advanced person. That way you're getting the forms and contracts that you can rinse and repeat with. You get a house and you know that they are going to get it at the right price. There's also joint venture with somebody who you might have the house and they might have the end buyer, or vice versa. They'll have the house and you have the end buyer. So then you just split profits.
And this is probably one of the biggest problems with wholesaling. And I mean, we went through it where, and this was up in Maryland, I put an ad out on Craigslist, because that was the good way to do it back then. And then, one of my friends called and said, hey, because I had already sent him the house and, said it was our house. And then he calls me and says, didn't you have this one house at whatever it was? I think it was one of the ones up in Cecil County. And I was like, yeah, that's, we have it under contract. And he's like, well, this other guy's selling it. And then that guy ended up calling me to sell me my own house for like $25,000 more, which, and that's bad in a couple ways, because he tacked on 25,000, which makes it look not as good of a deal. I mean, I had it priced right. He adds 25,000. So then people just skim and think we're working together, and, there's different prices, and, so there's some other tricks that when you're marketing, you put your company name, you kind of inscribe it. We don't mind JVing with people if somebody wants to bring me the buyer, but I want it to be on the up and up. I don't want it to be, like I'm going to do an end around and, try to take it from you, or you make it look like a bad deal. So like the guy I was just talking about, like we have that relationship where, I know he's assigning it to somebody else. He'll either tell me he can close on it himself, or he's going to sign it. And I don't mind him assigning it, but, I know that he's shopping it around and I've given him permission. And I think that's, a lot of people just pull stuff off a marketplace and then they're like, oh, I'm just going to throw these out to my people and see what happens. And that's like a no-no, and you really shouldn't do it. Your reputation will precede you on that one.
And we do virtual wholesaling, it's essentially the same principle, only it's a little bit harder because you have to have an affinity for that area with boots on the ground, people that you trust. We don't just do it without having people there that we can rely on and count on.
Well, sometimes
Or we hire
we have
somebody.
to quickly find a team.
Yeah, we'll hire somebody to go out there, what have you, build the team. And then, the landscape of the area, we look at it to see, we there's certain houses that, certain areas and certain houses that are easier to sell than others. Like, we don't want a house that's on a main busy street. We don't want a house too far in the boonies that there's no stores or anything around there, no jobs, no stores. We look for one with the Walmart near it or in the proximity. So, you have to look at things even more carefully and to get a grasp of the area before you just grab that house. You gotta
And again, that's a brief overview. We could probably do a 2-day class just on this. I mean, there's so much more, just to look at the house. You're doing comps, you're doing Google Maps, you're doing landscape of the area, demographics. There's just a whole lot to it. But at the end of the day, you still have to have a good team. You have to make sure people are there, make sure the sales are there. There's some areas that we could have gotten a house, but there wasn't a lot of flippers, and I knew that ahead of time. So for me to get the house, and then we were going to have to do something with it, I just wanted to wholesale it, but it didn't make sense because I was going to have a really hard time finding somebody to flip it. So unless we were going to keep it as a rental or we were going to, sell or finance it to somebody, it just didn't make sense for like a quick wholesale, to come across it. So there's a lot to it. James will tell you that too. It's not just, I can just look on the internet, and there's a whole lot of information that you need to get before you go ahead and put the house under contract.
And like the one big important thing that we didn't even go over that we could go over a lot more is when you talk to the homeowner, it's not always about the money. It's about solving their problem, talking to them, building a rapport with them. That takes time, really showing that you care and trying to see what they need or what they want so that you can solve their problem. And then you'll obtain more houses that way. So, I mean, that's a whole section of its own. So we could probably do a 2-day course on the ins and outs, complete wholesaling, and how to be successful and how to get more houses. And this is an example of virtual real estate wholesaling. We didn't even see this house at all. We've never been here. We've never been to that town.
And this was just a quick, I was bored in COVID, and it was Hudson and Marshall. We were trying to figure our way around those things. A lot of people weren't buying in same houses over and over. It ended up being, I think it was some kind of tax issue or something, but we picked it up really cheap for $5,500. We made about $6,500 on it. It was just a quick wholesale. We had a young lady that, and we belonged to a couple different groups on Facebook. One was a wholesaling group for everybody. There was another group that was for women just trying to get started. She's a young go-getter, and so we sent her around. She knew the area. She took pictures for us. She did just kind of handled some of the stuff locally for us. So we've never been there, didn't know her. She was just, everything I asked her to do, she did. So we kicked her $1,000 just for taking some pictures. And, and now, anytime I need anything in that area, she'll go look. She has I've recommended other people to her that, she's helped them out. And, when they close the house, they kick her some money, and we send her gift cards and stuff just so we're relevant, that, I don't want to just pick up the phone a year later and say, hey, remember me? Can you go look at a house? So, we just kind of pop in every once in a while, even if we don't have anything in that area. It's not something we would really look to keep something there. So it would just be a quick wholesale or kind of help her. We mentor her a little bit. So kind of all works out. And that's just somebody we met off a Facebook group that, James was saying earlier in his meeting, if you're going to do something and you say you're going to do it, go ahead and do it. Don't So we had a lot of people that were like, oh, I'll go by and look. I'll help you out. I'll do this. None of those did. This young lady did. So now she's kind of in our network, and we help her out whenever we can. She helps us out. And
Okay.
that's been, I don't know when that was, 2020. So 3 years later.
Yep. Can reach out to her anytime. And we're part.
We do have some like quick do's and don'ts, and we'll just run through those real quick. It's not a slide, just quick things. One thing when you put a house under contract, make sure you always give yourself inspection time. Like there's nothing worse than just saying I'll take it and then not taking it. So 7 days, 5 days, whatever you want to do to just go get a visual on the house, or sometimes people will get an inspection. So you can get, different inspections. You can get the little one, the big one, but if you think there's any issues, that's a good thing. But always give yourself an out on any contract, whether that be, your partner's inspection, your inspection, whatever. Another just quick one is don't inflate or deflate the numbers. So if you're wholesaling a house, don't say it's worth 300,000 when it's only 200,000, and don't deflate the rehab numbers. If it's $100,000 rehab, it's $100,000 rehab, because that people are just going to think you're a joke and you don't know what you're doing. So anytime, make sure your numbers are your numbers. And we see that all the time. We can look at a deal right now, probably, we're looking at it maybe 30 seconds. We already know if it's a deal or not, or something we want to pursue. That just comes with time and looking at a ton of deals. Don't try to wholesale something if there's no meat on the bone. It's got to be a win-win for everybody. You don't just want, for you to make the money, and then the rehabber, he's going to lose money, and then he's never going to buy anything again, or he's out of real estate, or you just want to make it a win-win for everybody, even if it's just a little bit of money. One thing we did early was we just fell in love with the deal. It's like we saw a house and we could envision this and that, and with this it would look beautiful and all this. The numbers are the numbers; they don't lie. Stick to your numbers, even if you think you can make a great rehab and you think this. Just stick with the numbers, and you'll kind of be there. And we talked about selling the contract and not the house. We already touched on that. And then something we ran a little rampant with, and kind of still do, that we need to tone in a little bit just because of technology and stuff, but just focus on 1 or 2 marketing methods. Like if you're doing a whole bunch of things, you don't know where your leads come from. So if you're sending out mailers and you're talking to realtors and you're driving for dollars, and you don't have any real system, like get good at 1 or 2 things, and then get those things running really good, and then move on to the next one. We got good at the HUDs, and that was what we really got good at. We honed in on them. We concentrated. We knew where the deals were coming from. So kind of if you keep that, you can get that one thing you're good at automated, then move on to the next one, and that way you'll have more success on that. And then don't send your houses out to thousands and thousands of buyers. Kind of get that buyer list, down, that's manageable. Know who buys, know who doesn't buy. If you stay locally, it's a little easier, because we knew at the RIA group, who was just blowing smoke saying they were buying, as opposed to who was actually buying or who was actually selling. Because everybody at a RIA meeting is a rock star, so you kind of have to, with time, you realize who's buying and who's not buying. And again, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game for all of it, but as many offers as you put in is what you're going to get out of it. If you put 1 offer in a week, you're not going to get any houses. I mean, if you send out mailers, and I don't know what the numbers are now, I think they've probably even gotten worse, but if you send out 1,000 mailers, you might get 10 phone calls, you might get 2 appointments, and you might get 1 house. So if you're sending out 5 mailers, you're not really going to get anything. You're just, it's not going to work. So whatever it is that you pick that you're going to do, get your offers out there, make it a lot of them. And even if it's with a realtor, make sure you do 20 a week. The realtor will hate you, but just get those offers out there, because you're not going to make any money if you're just doing it sparingly. Or we see a lot of people that, they start and then, they stop, and then they think they can pick back up, and then, you have to be consistent, be persistent, and keep putting offers out. Okay, that's my 2 cents.
And we're part of the virtual REI Academy. It's with James and Nicole. If James, I don't know if it's easy for you to put the link in the comments. Would you go to that real quick? You're faster at that than I am.
Technology.
Stop sharing. There we go.
Shanae, is that our Shanae? Shanae?
Oh, yes, ma'am, she says.
How you doing? Glad to see you. Hope everything's good.
Well, glad to see a blank screen that you're behind.
Does anybody have any questions? And then we went over everything kind of quick.
And like I said, this is a brief overview with tips and tricks, but we could, there's people that teach 1 and 2 day classes on this that really get into it down and dirty and nitty gritty.
James, you're muted.
Uh-oh.
I was doing the math because I always do that. And I'm like, all right, 100+ deals on average. I'm like, oh my God, they made like $750,000 minimum over these last few years. That's unbelievable. That is awesome. So a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, if you do it the right way and you really, have integrity with it. There's so many people out there that, like Jane was talking about, the daisy chain and people stealing each other's deals and all, then you're not going to last.
Well, I think the way that you guys do it, with a high level of integrity and making sure you take care of the other people and stuff like that, I think what ends up happening, and you would know better than I would in terms of the wholesaling part, but it seems to me that it just keeps ramping up, right? So the first time you didn't have a reputation about anything, so you might get 2 or 3. Then the next time, because they're like, wow, I really like them, you get 5 or 6, and all of a sudden deals are coming your way because you treated people right. And it's not as hard. You don't have to do as much because you just did the right thing in the first place. And now you have a long-term business.
Sure. And you learn as you go along and you add different things to your tool belt, because we throw in options in there too, that we know how to create different deals with options. Right. That's like higher end, but
right.
Definitely.
I think some people are scared.
I think we would have did things a little bit different. Like we did wholesale a lot of really good deals that, and it's, we know what we know now that we didn't know then, but like, we would have stayed in the deal a little bit, to either flip it with them or, something to get a little bit more experience. But you don't know what you don't know, and then you figure it out later, and then maybe we would have been bad at it then, so we're a little better at it now.
Exactly, because you can add anything you want to contracts with the end buyer. You can negotiate certain things, and you don't at the beginning. You get you don't know how to negotiate or not smooth at it, and as you go along, you can add things to it. You understand it a little better. So it's a process, and it's just you have to get out there and do it. There's so many people that have analysis paralysis. They get all the learning done, and then they're afraid to go and do it. And you're going to make some blunders and mistakes along the way, but then it gets you better for the next time. You just tweak it and fix it for the next go around.
I think that's huge, what you just said. I think a lot of people get scared because they feel like listening to you is like, oh my God, I got to know about this and this and that and this and that, as opposed to someone goes, something, let me go out and kind of, maybe fall a couple of times, whatever it is, but I'll learn as time goes on. I'll get better and better and better. And it seems like today everyone's like, I got to have everything. I got to know everything now before I do anything, which is unfortunate. So kudos to you guys for just getting out there and, taking action, right? And growing from it, which is phenomenal.
I think in like a lot of newer people, whatever it is that they do, we'll just say, go put something under contract just to get that feeling of, wow, I put it under contract and it got accepted. Now you have your out clause for the inspection. So if you're like, holy crap, I don't know what to do with it, then you have an out, but at least you got that, because I still remember that feeling we got when we won that first HUD bid, and we had to toss it back because it was not a good deal like we thought. But at the same time, like was like, okay, we want to do this again and again, and it just gets you motivated. And then when you close your first house, I mean, I can, you remember all that, and now it's like buying a pair of shoes or something. Like we don't even like it's like you don't even get, I don't want to say get excited about it, but you know what I mean. It just comes. It's like natural. It's just part of your job, or it's part of your, some houses you get more excited about, but it's still just commonplace and.
And like you were talking about earlier, James, where you get deals and you just talk to people and you get more comfortable with talking to people, because being introverted and all, you don't run out and say hi, and you just kind of stay quiet. But we have the dog, and we were at the dog park, and there was a lady there talking about wanting to move from actually Maryland, coincidentally, to Florida. And she said that she had a couple houses down here and she wanted to keep them, but she wasn't sure if she could afford it and she needed help. So, of course, we reached out to her and got her information, and we're going to talk to her and maybe perhaps talk to her about like a master lease or something that we could rent it from her, and then put renters in there. Maybe, it's close. One of them's close to the hospital. We can get traveling nurses in there. And
where is our traveling nurse tonight? She's not here.
She's not here tonight. So there's, now that we have done it for a while, we can kind of smoothly transition into a conversation and then help her solve her problem and work it out that way. Like a couple of years ago, we would have never thought about that. It wouldn't have even been in our wheelhouse. And now we just.
I mean, our first couple RIA meetings, we sat in the back and didn't talk to anybody. We're like, not talking to anybody here.
It's funny.
We're talking on the computer on Zoom.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Or
Shanae, let's get you a deal. Do you have a deal yet?
No.
All right. What do we got to do to get you one?
And I just, like you said before, just being consistent. I started in 2020 and I was not getting anywhere with it, so I stopped. And now I'm back into it. So
okay, good.
It's got to be consistent.
Welcome back. Yeah, just keep hanging out here, and we'll figure out a way to get you some deals.
Yeah, I have a list. I'm just trying to figure out the one CRM that I'm using. Trying to navigate through that to get my list. Do like a text blast.
Gotcha. What CRM are you using?
What's in it? Marketingplex.
Okay. We just signed up for a free trial of FreedomSoft just to get a list of names and see how their CRM works. So we'll let you know about that.
What's it called again?
FreedomSoft.
We're like guinea pigs. We try different things out and see what works, and then other people will be interested in something, and then they'll talk us into trying it out first, and it's funny.
Well, if I come across something that I want to try, I'll hit you up.
Have you guys tried REI Reply?
I've not.
I don't think we've tried that one.
So I was helping somebody else doing something else. And I guess what's nice about it is that you can actually set up automations, like you get an active campaign. So you say, okay, day one, send in this text, and then wait 2 days. And day two, send in this email. Okay, and then wait 2 days. Then day three, send them this. And you just click the button and it does it automatically for you. And then if you get a response, it automatically knows, okay, stop the automation because this person responded to us. Now let me pick up the phone and call them and stuff like that. I was just very impressed. I didn't know anything about doing stuff like that. And they just had a really good product. It's like $50 a month or something like that.
Oh, wow. That is cheap.
Yeah.
That's like Marketingplex.
Yeah.
Same.
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
I think a lot of those, like we've kind of steered away from them. Just like we had an Airbnb in Daytona Beach, and when the market got hot, we sold it. But like we would get texts all the time about that, and I would just respond what our price was. Like I would just make up a price I wanted that day,
Right.
And then we would never hear from the person again. So like I don't know where that goes in the automation, or if it was the person behind it, or. And then we were doing something called Liberty Leads, and it had its own CRM, but they were so annoying that and not being that technical, I had to go in and change some stuff. But it was still, they were being so annoying, sending out text messages and sending out, phone calls. And then we would get a nasty, message that said, quit bothering me. Don't, ever call me again. But that was because they were annoying.
They were
Oh, right.
like a couple, like 4 or 5 times a day. It
Oh,
was like,
jeez.
it was like, oh my gosh.
Right. So I had to go in and turn all the notifications off, and then it came back to me anyway. Just, I had to call them, or our acquisition person had to call them. So
Right.
Yeah,
just,
that's one good thing. We have this acquisition manager who, well, she's really good at talking to people, and then she'll get in there and find out what they need, what they want, and then we go in there and do the closing. So we have her that she'll always reach out to them quickly. So that's another
great.
good thing. When
Mhm.
when the homeowner is ready to get into contact with you got to get back with them very quickly. Otherwise, you'll lose the.
and I remember you, James, I remember that in the first meeting, you saying follow up. That is so important. And we dropped the ball so many times on that, where it's just, we followed up once, or we forgot, or we were driving, or whatever that looked like. And then, we didn't follow up, and then you get busy, your life happens. And so a lot of lost leads. And I think that probably happens with a lot of investors.
Because you get like all or nothing. It's like everything hits you at once, and things fall through the cracks, and then you get like a lull, and then a bunch again. So that's why it's so great that with this acquisition manager, she can pick up the slack for us, so we don't lose leads anymore.
Is she local or is she virtual?
Actually, she lives in
North
North
Carolina.
Carolina.
Why would she be local? Everything else is virtual. We don't do anything local.
It was great. It was her and a bookkeeper, and they worked together, and they were working with another investor he's been working with them for years, and he retired. So we just grabbed them up. We were in the right place at the right time, was able to grab them up. We didn't have to vet them. We didn't have to train them. And they're amazing.
He was another mentor. Like, he was at one of our meetings, and he, a lot of times that's how we stumble onto things, because people, we say yes all the time, just to things, but he was looking to free up some time. And we knew he was doing some of the land contract stuff and seller financing and different things, and we wanted to kind of learn that. So it didn't cost us anything. We just did some work for him. We actually got paid to do it and helped him out, and then we learned how to do it, and then we picked up his 2 employees when he retired. So that was like a win-win for saying yes.
And then if other people need their help, they have so much, time that they can, pick up other people too. So we've referred them, and especially the bookkeeper. Oh my gosh, it's hard to get a good bookkeeper. We've referred her to so many people, and they're so happy with her. So it's
really hard to find good people. I probably went on Upwork trying to find a bookkeeper for us, because our CPA charges just way too much. I mean, he's great for tax planning, obviously, and they have a place that does bookkeeping, but it's like $150 an hour or something like that, which is just craziness. So, and I found somebody. I went through like 8 guys on Upwork, and then it got down to 3, and then it got down to 1, and the guy's been phenomenal. And
nice.
It's like $50 a month, and he does all our P&Ls, all our income and expense statements, everything. The guy's just amazing.
That's cheap. That's a good deal.
Yeah. So you just you never know. You just got to go through a lot of people, like everything else, right? You're not going to get it the first one.
Yep. Exactly. Always vet 3 people at least until you with anything.
Yep. Absolutely right. So
any other questions? No.
Okay. I think next week we're going to be talking more in depth and involved about vetting deals and vetting properties, and like this is the longer one, and then next week's back to like the 15-minute teaching Tuesday. The third Tuesday is like a longer course, and then every other week is a little bit smaller, and then more question and answers. So you can bring things that you're struggling with, having problems with, properties that you're looking at. We can try to solve issues for you.
If people wanted to send you like, wow, something I'd really like to learn about X, to give you topics and stuff like that, how do they reach out to you?
Oh, that would be great to do that. Should like the email?
Yeah, the email that I just forgot.
Which email is it?
Our virtual REI.
Oh, Virtual
I
Aria.
think it's, I want to type it in.
We're all-
James, you
James.
probably know it.
James is the IT person. We're like, James, can you help us with this?
Yeah, if I'm the IT person, you guys are in so much trouble.
Shoot, I can't even do it.
What is-
I think he's doing it. James is doing it.
Okay.
There it is. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That's why we hire people too, though.
Do this technology stuff, which we are going to get a handle on.
Yes.
I'm sure. So
See, you don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, and you can get real estate done.
we are all examples of that. It's just take action and never quit.
Yep, that's it.
So, well, what do you guys want to do? You're in charge.
No
I-
questions. I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
We got some deals to go find, some bids to put in, some offers to do.
All right, awesome. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful night, a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Good seeing you, Shanae. I hope you will be here next week with us.
Yep, I'll try and make it if I remember.
Awesome. Well,
We'll remind you.
we send emails.
All right.
out.
Sounds good.
Good seeing you. Look
Take
good.
care.
Good. Take care.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.